Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. As well as taking a fresh look at the bigger picture of the Giza Plateau, it's also important we look at some of the finer details of the monuments in question, because sometimes we stumble across things that can either lead us down the rabbit hole of discovery, or they can have the opposite effect and the curiosities get blown out of proportion and leave us wasting our time focusing on the wrong thing. Of course, our study of the ancient world leads to debate and differing opinions, and that's no bad thing. But we need to be armed with the facts before we make up our mind with regards to interpretation. Sometimes if the facts don't fit, there are screams of conspiracy or aliens, when it may actually be that the hypothesis is wrong, and therefore it's time to scrap it and move on. As you can see from the thumbnail and the title of this video, I wanted to give you my perspective on what we see below the right ear of the Great Sphinx, because this particular anomaly often lights up message boards and forums and leads to huge amounts of discussion and speculation. I've had countless comments over the past 12 months telling me about the so-called secret door below the right ear of the Sphinx, and this is something I've been aware of for a very long time and is something I looked into way before starting the Ancient Architects channel. So, what are we looking at? The head of the Sphinx is made of the harder member 3 limestone unit of the bedrock, hence the dark colour and the lack of overall weathering. Over the past 90 or so years, the head has undergone significant amounts of restoration, which I have to say is somewhat crude and unnecessary, but it is what it is. We know there is a hole in the top of the head, which logic says was to affix a headdress to the statue in antiquity, possibly the 18th dynasty, when I believe the head was recarved by one of the pharaohs who showed no interest in the Sphinx enclosure. Possibly Amenhotep II, who built the Sphinx temple to the northeastern side, Thutmose IV, who re-excavated the Sphinx and erected the Dream Stealer, or possibly Queen Hatshepsut, who is often shown portrayed as a Sphinx. This of course is all open to debate. The hole in the top of the head was apparently large enough to fit a person, but shallow enough for somebody to stand inside upright, whilst their head remains outside. Therefore, it is estimated to be between 5 and 6 feet deep, and this is according to archaeologist George Reisner, who excavated the Giza Plateau a number of decades ago. I think it was once much deeper, and reports from antiquarians do say that it was filled in with cement to protect the head and to stop excess weathering from the inside. Today, a metal trapdoor covers the hole, and very little else is known about it. So, what about the strange feature under the ear? For a start, if this was a secret entrance into the Sphinx, logic says that this would be a somewhat ridiculous place to put it. Because A, it's clear for all to see and not very secret, and B, there's no easy way into it, unless of course you have a large ladder, which again is hard to hide from the masses. Furthermore, the size of the so-called door means a person would have to crawl through, as it's about half as tall as your average person. It's also a crude shape. If the Egyptians could carve an incredible large face on a natural mound, why wouldn't they create a better doorway than this? With a hole in the top of the head, a hole in the top of its back, one at ground level at the back of the Sphinx, a crude doorway on its northern side, and a hole between the paws, all clear for everyone to see, and all confirmed as true openings, even by Egyptian authorities, why would people of the past create a tunnel beneath the ear when there are other ways inside? There is some discussion that it could be a modern creation, a borehole into the Sphinx head in more modern times, and bunged up with a blocking stone, but the hole was certainly there in the 1920s as shown here. I would guess it has always been there, but it's hard to see because of the way that shadows fall on the head of the Sphinx, blocking the feature from view. You can just about make it out on this photograph from the 1880s. Even on drawings by old antiquarians, you can see that the strange anomaly features clearly, shown here on a diagram from the early 1700s by Frederick Ludwig Norden. But what are we looking at? Well, you need access to high-definition photos or video of the Sphinx to really get an informed view of this feature. For a start, on the opposite side of the head, under the left ear, there is also a small hole in roughly the same place as the right one. It is smaller than the feature we see on the right hand side, but the fact that the two features appear in the same place on either side, to me is rather telling. If you zoom into the feature under the right ear, you can see there is a vertical groove next to it, having a similar height as the main feature. But as you can see in the main hole, there is no plug stuck inside. It is quite clearly the bedrock. The so-called plug is no plug. It is still joined, and therefore what we have quite clearly is a rectangular shaped groove beneath the ear. Nothing else. So, what do I think it is? There are really only two feasible ways to interpret what we see. First, it could have been made by the ancient Egyptians, and due to the fact there is a similar feature on both sides of the head, they are likely to be fittings to fix something to the head, whether earrings or possibly a beard. The Sphinx did have a long protruding beard under the chin, fragments of which were found by Captain Caviglia in the 19th century, so maybe there was a larger beard that went around the face, that connected to the head under the ears, to offer it more support. The other option is that this feature is the beginning of a borehole to try and gain access to the Sphinx, historic antiquarians cutting into it to try and find a way inside. But this seems unlikely due to all the other cavities in and around the Sphinx, which can be accessed far more easily. If this hypothesis is correct, it could be the work of the Caliph al-Mamun in the 9th century, maybe Napoleon or anybody. Your guess is as good as mine. I believe the former interpretation that something was affixed. To further back up this claim, if you look at its position, the rectangular groove isn't positioned on the finished face. You can see that the face has a finish. Either the limestone has been polished, or there is a type of plaster covering the face. This finish stops at the ear, and at the rectangular groove and directly beneath, the stone is a lot rougher and has no finish. This indicates that from the groove, something was probably attached that went down and then under the chin, which I'm sure was connected to the protruding beard, fragments of which do survive and are seen here. You can even trace where a beard would have gone on this early 18th century drawing, and this also shows that what we are looking at is a groove on the side of the head and not a blocking stone. Below the head, there was also once a statue on a pedestal, shown here in this reconstruction, and during historic Sphinx excavations, a fragment of this statue was discovered. Sadly, all that survives is part of the crown, but this shows that we are looking at a pharaoh. I believe that this statue is the same person that the face of the Sphinx is portraying, which is likely to be someone from the 18th dynasty, which I will look into sometime in the future. Of course, all of this talk of a plugged entrance beneath the ear of the Sphinx came back into the mainstream thanks to the story of the Russian Boriska Kiprianovich, who claimed to have flown to Egypt in his previous life as a Martian spaceship pilot, and said that the planet Earth will change forever when the secrets of the Great Sphinx in Giza are finally unlocked. He added that the opening mechanism is hidden somewhere behind the ear of the Sphinx, but conveniently, he doesn't remember exactly where it is. His parents were convinced he was telling the truth. Apparently, Boriska has above average intelligence, with the media calling him a genius. He apparently had outstanding knowledge of planetary systems at a very young age, without any formal teaching, and was highly advanced compared to most children. So, do I believe him with regards to the Sphinx? Well, I'm afraid not. All we have are a few news reports which contain no real substance, information or depth about Boriska, and due to the fact he's apparently now disappeared and is off the radar, it's very unlikely we'll hear anything more about this story. And anyway, the anomaly we are discussing in this video is below the ear, and not behind it, so any link between this and Boriska's claims is tenuous at best. I would take it all with a pinch of salt. This is no reliable source, and should certainly not be the basis of a hypothesis. To end this video, I thought I'd show you some of these amazing close-up photographs of the head of the Sphinx. There is exquisite detail around the eyes, and in places you can still see evidence of the original paint. Here we see the amazing detail of the central position of the headdress, where the snake would have once been attached. Not many people have seen pictures of it, but the snake was discovered in the fill of the enclosure in the 19th century, and we can see from these pictures that it is relatively well preserved. The Sphinx may have given up many of its secrets, but as geophysical surveys show, there are still unexplored cavities beneath the structure, and hopefully one day these will be explored. I have recently launched a new channel called Space and Planet, which focuses on Earth and space science news, as well as independent scientific research from around the world. New content to this channel will be coming soon, so please subscribe now to help my channel get a head start. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.